shop for 7 years. And when I was working in the barber shop, it was tons of fun. I think my conversations were much better than my fades. They were all right, but they weren't fantastic. And as I spoke with man after man, I learned that they weren't coming for the haircut. They were coming to talk to me. They were coming to tell me about their wives, their girlfriends, their side piece, their daughters, whatever it may be. And through that, I learned a very important lesson. My father, he taught me since I was a little girl that if I was ever really good at something, I need to charge. So that's exactly what I did. I dropped everything I was doing. I went back to grad school, and I worked 2 jobs to get out of school 100% debt-free. So what I say to you is I am a woman of color, and I am the 2% out there. I am currently right now 100% debt-free. I owe nobody nothing. Nothing, except around tax time. But I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes on time. So what I'm telling you guys that you are in school is we can connect. It is possible to not have student loan debt. They sell you this dream, but the hustle is separate. It's absolutely true. And this is why everything I'm going to share with you today goes into that. Now for my business owners, I want to ask, is there any question you may have from the get that I can answer from you in regards to emotional intelligence? I know Ian always has a couple questions, so hold up. Anybody have questions? Yes.
I guess the biggest thing that I've discovered is that it's not, going to a coach or figuring out the structure of business. It's more like the belief, knowing that you need to actually believe that you can do something.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest struggle that I've had.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And just to share with you guys a little bit about my journey, currently where I'm at right now is I am a big advocate for students not taking loans, but finding other ways to source their schooling. But also, this is my first year of full-time entrepreneurship. So what I did is I was working for county. Anybody ever have any experience with county? Getting county services, working for county? Anybody up in the room? Yes. So county is where happiness goes to die. County is a wonderful service, but if you work for county, you are underpaid and overworked. And what working for county taught me is to go work for myself. That's what county taught me after serving my people for 3 full years, full time. I had no life. That's a 60-hour job. But this is what I took from it. It's the emotional intelligence. So to begin, I'm going to start with an activity. And why? Because I want you guys to know exactly where it is you are at. So does everybody have something to write with, whether it be in your phone, a note, something to write with? Everybody? All right, I'm going to give you guys a challenge. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to write down all the emotions you know. Do not cheat off your neighbors either. All the emotions you can think of. So it's something like sad, happy, just go. All the emotions, right? But most people get those. So all the emotions you know. Anybody need more time? Okay, time's up. All right. All right, you guys ready? Who got at least 5? Keep your hands up as I keep going. Who got 10? Who got 15? See, you see some hands up. Okay, who got 20? At least 20. Anybody? So we stopped at 15 in the back, yes? 15? Okay. Fun fact. In Alaska, the Eskimos have 143 words for snow. Isn't that amazing? Here's where I started to bring in my culture, my experience, but also my education into the real world. My first language was Spanish. And when I went to school for psychotherapy, I realized that a lot of words you just can't translate. They have their own meaning, especially for love. We have so many more words in Spanish for love than in the English language. So this is what I'm going to share with you. When a child is small and they don't have any language, what do they do to let you know what they need? They cry, they throw fits, right? They move about. They give you a hard time, but it's because they can't communicate otherwise. What if I told you that as adults we're doing the same thing with our emotions? Emotional intelligence starts actually when you're able to identify 30 emotions off the back, just off your head. Because this is my job day in, day out, I'm able to, but I wasn't always like that. Warren Buffett, that's Bay right there. If he was a little younger and I was a little older and he wasn't married, that'd be it right there. Warren Buffett says that if you manage your emotions, you can manage your money. And he's absolutely right. Because if you have emotional intelligence, you'll make more money. This is why it's important to educate yourself. So this is why I brought this today. I'm going to give it to you guys. List of emotions. On this list, there's 57 of them. And that's not all. The English language has over 100 emotional words. Did you know that? No, because we're not taught that. Here's something to consider, especially in a room full of people of color, of experience, but also a history, right? In school, what do they teach us? I have to cuss it out, Ian, thank you. What do they teach us? They teach us science, they teach us math, they teach us history, or I should say, the history that was written down, right? But they never really stopped to teach us about emotional intelligence, how that's important. And secondary, they never teach us a financial education. Show me a high school graduate that can balance a checkbook and knows how to appropriately manage a credit card. Tell me where they went to school, because I'll go there again. Because I didn't learn this in school. I have to learn this from my parents, the financial side. But as far as the emotional, I didn't learn this until I was 25. A lot of people throw around the word that's woke. You know, we woke. To me, woke means I actually am accepting of my responsibility and my awareness of self. This is what it means to me. I didn't have this moment until I was 25 in grad school. And they were describing in class what self-care was. And I didn't know what that word meant, and I was embarrassed. I was like, what is this? And I went to a predominantly Latino, private, Catholic school for grad school. I was pretty embarrassed, but then I noticed something. I noticed around the room, everybody was kind of looking like a deer in the headlights. We didn't know what self-care was because of the culture behind it. Because in communities of color, we are taught to be strong. We're taught not to cry. We're taught to keep going, to keep it in, right? And this is why, if you increase your emotional intelligence, you'll understand others more. Going back to Warren Buffett and my point here, how many of you in here would like to make more money? Right? That's everyone. And as a businesswoman, I love to see models out in the real world that actually work. And this is going to go into two areas. So 90% of my diet throughout the time is vegan. But I have a dirty little secret. I love to cheat with In-N-Out, with the grilled cheese. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important, why I'm sharing this with you. It's not so much the grilled cheese that I love to cheat with, but it's the business model that In-N-Out has. Tell me any time that In-N-Out has beat McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's, Carl's Jr. in the drive-thru on their time, their delivery, and their excellence in the service. Never. This is why they're still in business over 50 years. What's my point? What are they doing that most humans are not doing? Why is In-N-Out so successful? Anybody want to take a guess? It's their communication. I'll tell you why. I pull up to the ordering window, right? And I say, hi, I'd like a grilled cheese cut in half with pepperoncinis, extra tomato. And what In-N-Out does, separate from everybody else, is they repeat the order back to me. And I say, no, I didn't want a shake. Oh, all right, girl, let me take that off. And then they repeat the order again to me until they get it right with a smile. And when I pull up to the window, there's no mistake. It's a clean order, and you're good to go. I don't know if you guys ever noticed the clock that they have on the drive-thru never gets past a minute and 30 seconds. That's why they are so successful. And why I'm mentioning this to you is very often we lack the emotional intelligence to actually communicate with people effectively. This impacts our relationships and our business mostly, and our friendships. It's so important to create a dialogue where we actually understand what the other person is asking. It helps us not create errors, but also effectively ask, what is it that they want? The dialogue is something like this. The wife comes home and she says, "Oh, you never wash the dishes." And he says, "Yeah, I do. I washed them last year." He's not wrong, right? He washed them once. It's the effective communication of saying, "I would really appreciate if you wash the dishes before I come home Tuesday night and you have already fed the dog." And they say back, "What I understood is that you want me to wash the dishes and feed the dog before you get home." It's literally repeating the order back. It sounds silly, it sounds primary, but it's so important for us to actually dialogue back and forth with the communication. Can you guys think of the last time you actually dialogued truly with somebody? Not through the source of technology either, right? An actual face-to-face conversation. And I could go so much deeper into that, and I will. Here's the problem. Nowadays, I'm seeing a lot of communication through technology, right? Let me DEM you, right? Let me send you a text real quick. Let's take another note from Apple, Steve Jobs. Here's another favorite. Apple will be taking all my money because I love their products. But something so important that they have implemented that really makes a difference in emotional intelligence is the read receipts, right? You guys ever see that meme by Kevin Hart that they're just waiting for them to type back because they read it, right? You see the little face popping through. Why is it so important for us to know if somebody got the message or read it? Anyone? Yes.
To know that we were heard.
To know that we are heard. Over here?
Oh, no, I'll just.
You're like, yeah, yes. To know that we are heard. The human has basic needs. Is anybody familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Right? The pyramid. So most humans, when we are born, when we're small, we're at the first base level of the psychological functioning. We need food, water, sex to procreate, right? We need air, sleep, all the basics. As the human achieves those, we get to the second level, just like a video game, right? Second level is love and belonging. Third level is productivity, belonging, being part of a group, being part of the collective, being able to create something bigger than ourselves. And level 4 is self-actualization. It's where you are truly in your purpose and you're in alignment with what it is you're supposed to do. Why is this important to know? Fun fact, most humans actually get stuck in level 2, where we don't feel love and acceptance and validation. And if we don't have those components already met, it's going to bleed into our businesses, our lives, and our friendships. This is why we are triggered or we're feeling some kind of way if we are not heard. The human actually is pretty basic. We're human in nature. And what we want to know is that we are heard. Do they get me? Do they understand what it is I'm feeling right now? The problem with this, though, is that we put the responsibility onto other people versus ourselves to express what we need. We are fully 100% responsible to get what we need. It is nobody else's problem. Your happiness, your joy, your sadness, it's all you. It's coming from you. Nobody has the right or permission to make you feel some kind of way, right? Drake in his feelings because he wanted me, right? He's still trying to figure out if Kiki loves him or not. That's his choice, right? But a lot of people like to throw around the blame. So here's the thing. The first time I ever discovered that I could actually put on read receipts, I thought it was amazing. Because here's the thing, it wasn't for me to find out if others knew if I read it or not. It was to hold myself accountable. Because if I knew that I was going to read something and I wasn't ready to respond versus react, that was my doing. That was my responsibility. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. And I'll explain why. There's a big difference between responding and reacting. Does anybody know the difference between responding and reacting? Yes.
They're just emotions involved more in one than the other?
It can, it depends, but truly and really, yes.
My guess is that when you react, you're going off of what they said versus how you take it. Is that?
It's a little bit of both. So let me clarify a little bit more. And when I learned this, it just blew my mind. My emotional intelligence just went through the roof. I hit level 3 on that like Sega life game, right? So responding versus reacting is better. When you react, you are triggered. You are coming from a wounded place inside you. It's when somebody says, "Oh, that dress is ugly." You're like, "What? Your dress is ugly. Your shoes are ugly." It's tit for tat when you react. Does that make sense? Versus when you respond, you say like, I hear a lot of people say, "Well, you lucky I'm saved," like, right? But it's mostly that you're fully in awareness and you're just like, okay, wait a minute. Is this about me or is this about them? They're probably just throwing salt. I look good. I look summertime fine, right? And this will happen a lot between people who love us, who aren't supposed to hurt us, but they do. But see, it's our responsibility whether we carry it or not, right? So once again, responding is actually taking the responsibility to know what you are going to come back with, and if it's coming from a wounded place or a heart space. One of the deepest things that I have ever learned in my entire life and career is when making hard decisions, where it's coming from. Is it coming from a heart space or a wounded space? And you are much more likely to be making a decision from a wounded place if you haven't worked on it. I'm a huge fan of drinking my own Kool-Aid. What does that mean? I'm a psychotherapist. I take myself to therapy. I'm a coach. I have a coach. If I recommend anything to anyone ever, it's because I've tried it first. Even the tacos down the street or the mac and cheese, right? I will try it first. And it's being of my word, being of integrity. And it's the same thing circling back to being responsible when I know somebody has read something that I will respond accordingly. I will not open a text message unless I am ready to respond. Am I 100% perfect? No, but I try and keep that in mind, and that includes emails or phone calls. Unless I am actually able and present fully to respond to whatever it is that they have to say, I won't open it, even if it means for a couple days not opening it. Do you see how technology and emotional intelligence will test us? Yeah. Here's another thing. How many of us in here would think that they're good listeners? That they listen well? Yes, raise your hands high. Who thinks they're a good listener? The best. I heard that back here. All right. So what components make somebody a great listener? I won't even use good. Great listener. What components? Throw it out there.
Eye contact.
Eye contact, compassion. What else?
Being silent while you're listening.
Who said that? Yes, that's my sister. You got like 100 points right now. Yes. Let me tell you why. One of the biggest things that I learned, I was in error. A great book that I read, if you guys want to write this down, an amazing book that I had to read in grad school, but later I just owned and I loved it and read it over and over, is The Lost Art of Listening. It truly is the lost art. We don't listen anymore. And I'll tell you why. If you are hearing, if sound is coming through your ears from somebody else, and you're thinking about what you're going to say back, you're not listening. You're already turning the wheels. You're not in full presence. You're responding. You're not processing. You're not giving them compassion. Does that make sense? And that's where our emotional intelligence comes up. But where it's really heightened and we really know if you have peace in your heart is in conflict. This is where emotional intelligence is tested. And here's another great component that I learned. Growing up with my two parents, they would bicker back and forth, but there was no real like blow-ups for the most part. They just kind of were good throughout the years, right? So I always thought that if there was conflict at any point within the household or work or school, I would shy away from it. I'd be scared. I'd be like, oh no, this is not good. I actually learned in grad school that conflict is wonderful. Conflict is a sign that both parties are still invested. This is why in my work, in my practice, when I have couples that I see and they want to work on the marriage, the most scariest thing I have ever seen in the room is when two parties come into the room and they're silent and they say nothing. There's no fight left in them. That's a scary place to be in any relationship. And not just romantically, that's for friendships and that's for work too. Think about that one. When two parties have already given up, there will be no conflict. Conflict is a sign of opportunity for growth. That's where your mind shift will come. So if somebody tries to come at you sideways and be like, you did this, you stole my candy bar, you ate my Oreos, yes, they're still invested in you. They still want to fight with you. Versus, why you want to fight with me? And then you have a negative tone to it. That's emotional intelligence, right? Seeing difficult experiences as an opportunity to grow, especially in business, because you're not always going to have happy customers, right? So going back to communication, and I know this is a lot to take in, but just due to time, this is usually what I do in like 2-3 hour workshop. Does anybody have questions, comments, or concerns on these topics that I'm bringing up? Anything that comes to mind? Yes.
I have a question about when you mentioned that you don't respond until you are ready to
Formulate a
Yeah.
response. Yeah.
And then you mentioned whether it be days or however long. But I think one of the things that I have trouble with is feeling like I don't want to leave that person hanging. So where does the consideration for the person that you're responding to come into?
Absolutely, great point. So I have 2 automatic responses. So one is when I'm driving, and one is if I'm on vacation or out where I truly can't answer. So it'll say, thank you so much for your patience. As of this time, I'll have a 24-hour window and I'll get right back to you. And I keep my word. So that's what I do. I also have automatic emails. So this takes me to a great point. Who has had a tiffle or a conflict at work at any point with coworkers, people? It's pretty normal, right? Any of you ever try to settle that through technology? Through emails? How does that go? It's either a ping pong, back and forth, right? Ping pong. So this is what I'll say to this. This is where emotional intelligence goes back to our origin, our childhood. How many in this room are familiar with their attachment styles? Yes. Yes. Attachment style. Right, exactly. So once again, I didn't learn this until I was like 25 or 26. And then all my relationships made sense of why, we had conflict or why we did this well or X well, right? Attachment styles are the amount of care and love and attention you received in childhood. Attachment style determines how you grow up as an adult and how you interact with the world. I'd want to say like 3-4 main types. So just for the sense of time, I'll keep to those 3. The first type is secure. Secure, to be quite honest with you, is not default. Secure is somebody who had like mom and pops from like Pearls and they're pushing the vacuum and they just came from like a great home. It's very rare because all of us have some character in our family, right? At least. The secure child knows that they are loved, that they belong, and that they're safe in all aspects. I truly believe that as adults, we can grow into this attachment style, but we're not born with it because the world is a scary place. The way we know this is because a researcher back in the day was in Africa, and she took babies with their mamas in the hut, and she would do experiments to where the mama would leave the baby and see how the baby would react. Jane Goodall, anybody familiar? Undergrad psychology or sociology? Ooh, ooh. All right. So what happened is that the babies had different experiences. One baby, as soon as the mother came back, reached out for the mama, and everything was fine with the world. The mom picked up the baby, and they were good, right? Here's where the differences came in. Second baby, same situation. Mom comes in. Baby looks at mom and keeps trucking. Does nothing. Doesn't reach out for mom. Doesn't cry. Doesn't beg for her. That person grows up and doesn't know how to do what? Connect. What else? Ask for help. What else?
Communicate?
What's that?
Did someone say communicate?
Yeah, communicate, but the most important, they don't know how to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, that's exactly it. Here's another one that we see very often as adults. The third style, same thing. Mama leaves, mom comes back in, and the baby goes, pick me up, right? Mom comes over, picks up her baby, and the baby does this. So the mom's about to go in for a kiss, and the baby goes, the baby is what? Resentful. The baby is resentful. The baby is resentful because they said, you left me. How are you going to abandon me? Even though the baby doesn't have words, the baby's expressing themselves how? Body language. Body language is a huge one. So why is this so important to know what is our attachment style? Because this is the type of person that they throw around the word bipolar. Oh, they bipolar, they hot and cold. You don't even know what they want no more. They good one day, they don't want me the next. That's that baby. That's that baby. That baby learned, I can't trust mama. I'm a teacher a lesson. And when I grow up, this is how I'm going to act with everybody. They can't act right. And they won't act right until what? They learn their own stuff. They learn their own attachment styles. I didn't learn this about myself until I read the 5 Love Languages. I love this book, the 5 Love Languages. It teaches you about attachment. It teaches you about styles. It teaches you how you want to be loved. What works best for you. Here's the thing, it's very important. For emotional intelligence, if you are able to meet the needs of others, everything else will go well. Besides HR, you can do every single love language within the workplace or with your friends or with romantic partners. And I say HR because one of the love languages is touch. We don't want none of that. we want to stay fresh out of HR. But you can apply it to any type of situation you have. Anybody deal with customers? Clients? Yeah. If you are able to identify how does this person feel heard, loved, valuable, and belonging, you will close that deal, no questions asked. All day, every day, somebody can teach you the ABC method. But if you don't go deeper than that and really connect with them, you might get them for the first sale, but you're not going to continuously keep them. Does that make sense? And I'm going to give you a great example. I know this really great realtor. He great. And I'll tell you why. He understands this. Because the number one thing that he taught me about business is connect and don't forget to check up. Hey Z, just seeing how you doing? How you hustling? How are things going? And one of my love languages is check-in. Just kind of people to check in and be like, hey, how you doing? It's appreciation. This is why he gains clients. This is why people do well in their life. As college students, how can we use this? Your study groups. Knowing what works for your professors. I know I spent countless nights without sleep just trying to get that 10, 12-page paper in. But if I didn't reach out to my professor that also had children, I know she wouldn't have given me that extension that I needed because I was working 2 jobs and going to grad school. It's emotional intelligence that will get you through that, if that makes sense. Here's the thing. Studies have shown around the world that money does not equal happiness, right? We know that because there's so many suicides that we see or people that are doing extremely well financially, but they're not happy. Money does not buy happiness. But what it can help you do is balance out. There's no such thing as this balance between work-life. I believe that the tire kind of just rolls as it rolls, and you gotta patch it up as you go. This is connected to your emotional intelligence. It's checking in with yourself. What do you need in that very moment? Because normally, if you're missing something from your cup, it's going to bleed into your workplace. And this is what I mean. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Let's say that a person is extremely well versed in their job, in what they do. But what they're missing is self-care. They're missing that time just for themselves. That time just to literally go to the bathroom, right? And I'm using this as like a personal example. If I don't schedule in a pee break, I won't get one, right? But if I don't fill my own cup, how can I fill the cup of others? Go in here, has ever had a customer, and literally be thinking in their head, like, I just want to go get some lunch. I just need lunch. Anybody? And being vulnerable, right? But if you don't fulfill that inside yourself, they're going to smell that. Here's the thing, you gotta play the game that who is more emotionally intelligent here? You or the client? And if it's the client, you will lose. You will lose that sale. One of the most brightest bulbs that went off in my head one day was this. People do not buy a service or merchandise or a product. They buy you. And this is why, when I understood this, my business is doing well. They can go to anybody for whatever X thing I'm doing, but they come to me because they connect. And I know every single one of you has something so special in here that people will go to because you supply you. It's not about the product or service. How many people in here have ever gone to their hairdresser, their barber, and then chatted it up? Come on now. I know I have. You can tell them, girl, how's it going? What's his name, right? Yeah. So you keep going back to them because you have this great, yummy feeling when you go to them, right? Yeah. Here's the thing, going back to body language. So I'm a Spanish speaker, and in my culture, my ancestors used to think that the brain was actually in the liver. They thought it was here, the Aztecs, right? And it's interesting that the liver is pretty darn close to the stomach. And a lot of us said, I just had that gut feeling. It's what they called the intuition, but we didn't know that back then. And I'm really big on your intuition is the voice of your emotional intelligence. And if you're able to read your own body language, you'll be able to read others. And this is what I mean. I want to give you guys actual tools for you to walk out with for you to increase this. So the first thing that I have discovered that really, really helps is video journaling. And not to post, not to share, just for yourself, something private, like in a private little vault app. This is why. If you write down your feelings, those are only your thoughts. You can't see your facial features, and you can't see or hear your tone or the connotation of how it's being said, right? When you video journal, you're actually seeing if your face and your affect matches what you're saying. You ever see people that when you ask them, like, are you doing all right? And they say, I'm fine. But you know they've fallen apart, right? So that's exactly why if you lie to yourself, you're probably lying to others. Know thyself first. The moment you're able to catch yourself on a lie of like, dang, I'm not doing well. My mom's in the hospital. I'm overworked, underpaid. My sister isn't helping me with mom. That's the moment you can be honest with other people. A lot of people like to throw around the come correct or not at all. Get correct. Get right. Otherwise, how will others connect with you? Right? I see a lot of nods, like, yeah. Yeah. Any questions come up for you guys? Because this is what it is, dialogue here. Any at all? Yeah. Here's the thing. When it comes to body language in business, this is what I look out for. This. If the person's at the table or standing or whatnot. Why? Because this is a sign of power when they do this with their hands. And you know this because we've talked about it. Because a triangle, it's secure no matter which way you put it. It has a secure base. It's leveled in pressure, right? This means I got you. So look out for that, right? And as usual, you want to look for like where the feet are going. Sometimes even when I coach people on dating, it's where the feet are going to whether or not they like you. So you could take a look at that. If the feet are towards you, they're down. If not, well, move on. Right? Yeah, don't waste your time. You can thank me later. It's all right. No invoice. Okay? Thank you later. As far as honesty, right? You usually get that gut feeling when it comes to marketing, when it comes to putting yourself out there for sales. You get an idea whether or not somebody's being honest with you. Most of the time, we are our own problem. We lie to ourselves. We say, oh, no, they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. But later we find out what? My gut was right. Listen to your gut. Another thing that I really like to do that has grown my emotional intelligence is to meditate. And a lot of people throw that around. But you know, I'm really excited. I'm going to tell you what. The very first moment that it actually became real for me, that it's going into communities of color, is when I watched YG's video with Vice. Anybody seen it? Isn't it amazing? YG went to therapy. That's amazing because in communities of color, you don't do that. And he talks about his feelings. He talks about it. And the therapist tells him, like, have you tried meditation? And at first he kind of just like, nah, that's not for me. And later there's a follow-up video as an interview that he does it now on a regular. Meditate. I'm probably one of the busiest people like you'll ever meet, but I will take a moment to meditate every single day. Usually when I meditate, colors come to me. I see people in colors too. Like I feel their energy and I either get like a really pretty, mint green, light yellow, and when it's not so great, I get other really heavy colors, like purple or red, or I don't know, maybe that's just some weird stuff, but this is what comes to me and didn't come at first. It came after years of meditating. This is like my 5th, 6th year. But this is what it does for me, just to take a pause. Here's another one. Here's a huge one that's really gonna just blow you guys out of the water. That say the same thing, it took me some time. I want you guys to take a moment and write down the 3 most difficult people in your life.
3?
3. Just 3. Write down the 3 most difficult people in your life. We're gonna do something with this. Just 3.
Just 3?
Just 3. Just 3. Just 3. You guys need more time? Everybody got 3? Just 3. Don't make a longer list. Alright. So what if I told you that the 3 people that you wrote down are actually a mirror and a reflection of you? So I'm gonna give you a solution to this, okay? I'm gonna give you guys a solution. So here's the thing, right? What bothers us about other people, irritates us, annoys us, is really about ourselves. It is what we call the lost self, the shadow self. It's the part of ourselves that we negate, that we were ashamed for in childhood or growing up by our caretakers. They shamed us to the core where they said, don't be like that, don't do that, sit right, act right, right? Act right or else. Here's the thing, here's the solution to this. I check myself on this very frequently. How can I expect others to be around me for a certain amount of time if I can't be with myself for that amount of time? I'll give you an example. Let's say that I'm gonna spend an entire day with my auntie or my sister, right? How can I spend the entire day with them and have them enjoy my company if I can't enjoy myself for an entire day without being on the phone or being on technology or email? Fully, truly in presence with myself, in what we call solitude, right? There's a big difference between loneliness and solitude. Solitude is when you are extremely happy and excited to be with yourself, right? Loneliness is when you feel alone. The big difference is people who could be in a room full of hundreds of people and they feel alone. Yet, there are people that it's only them in the party, it's lit, because they are fully aware and they are fulfilled within themselves. You will feel this energy around people, and when it doesn't match, you feel it, you do, right? That's a big question to ask yourself. Am I able to provide myself whatever it is I'm asking X person to do? And if it's to commit to you, to spend time with you, to give you X, whatever it might be, ask yourself, can I give myself that, right? It's the same thing with the concept of love. This is a big one for me that I'm conceptualizing lately. And love is a tricky thing, right? But what's come to mind is this: love is unconditional, including for yourself. If there is an if, but, or when associated with that word love, it's not real love. I love you if you act right. I love you if you don't talk to her no more. I love you because you do XXX thing for me. I love you when you're good. I love you when you don't use. I love you when you wash the car. I love you because you don't eat my Oreos. I'm just being silly with these examples, but it's real. Really ask yourself if you have those if, when, or because with yourself. I'd love myself if I lost 15 pounds. I love myself because XX title is associated with my identity, when in reality it's not. You are your entire being just on your own. And all of this is related with your mental health. The best way, and I'm not saying this the right way, but the best way is to have self-awareness. Personal development courses, seminars, workshops, therapy will definitely help you increase your emotional intelligence. You will see that as that grows, so does your bank account. It will literally go hand in hand and it'll just flow. Ian's like, yes. So, I don't want to overstep my time, and I know it's just jam-packed in there, but I would love to open this up to Q&A, to any questions you guys may have. Any at all, I'm open to it. any comments you have, any thoughts, any light bulbs. What I love to do when I work with people, whether it be with coaching or therapy, I love to ask them at the end, how do you feel? What'd you get from this? Yes.
So the what I got from this, you said when there's still conflict, there's still investment. That's
Correct. Yes.
That's gonna stick with me. 'Cause now I can
yes.
think about that when I'm like about to yell someone down or about to have like a
showdown?
angry reaction. It's
Yeah.
like I'm invested. So if I just step out of that investment, then maybe there wouldn't be conflict. So I think that's a great point. I'm gonna keep reflecting back to that. That was a comment wrapped in a question.
Yes.
Wrapped in
Yes.
clarification.
Thank you for
So
sharing.
thank you for that, Jim.
Yes, girl, you got diamonds. Don't worry. Yes.
I just wanted to, Christine, make that reference. You know, if you've seen Love and Basketball, you know, the coach was real hard on Monica.
Yes.
She saw what was in her. She said, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't, you know.
I wouldn't be
Y'all
here.
see-
Wow.
You
That's so funny. Those are my favorite brown sugar.
You know,
Girl, yes. Yes.
So when you were talking about like your own personal development, just as an individual, let's say with family, coworkers, whatever the relationship is, if you're on the path of trying to be self-aware, working on your emotional intelligence and all that, but the other people that you're encountering on a daily basis and in relationships with are not,
Right.
how do you balance that out? How are you able to, I guess, try and impart that knowledge to them without it being overbearing so they can be receptive to it while you're also working on it? Because it's like, it's almost like you're doing all the work and no
Yeah.
one else is being able to do or self-correct themselves. So it's like, well, why bother if they're not even, you know, being receptive or acknowledging any of that?
I love that question, especially being Latina. There will always be conflict in my family. Like everybody's up in each other's business all the time. I'm like, wait. So 3 things to that. 1, there is a huge, huge need for boundaries and limits. Boundaries are for people that need boundaries. And for a lot of family members, we love them, but Lord Jesus, like we know we need boundaries with them. So it's knowing how much time can you really spend with them without feeling triggered. And if it can't be past 2-3 hours, you still need to work on your tools. I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not, but I'm up to at least like 3 days now, like with my mama. At least 3 days, and that's good, you know, without me being triggered. So I've also asked myself this: am I the rock or am I the water in the river? Which am I? I used to be the rock, and the rock is just, no, it's my way or the highway, and that's it. And we go and eat spaghetti. I don't care what you want, and that's it, right? And that's just a small example. But I've learned to flow like the water, to where what most people say, right? 99% of the time what people say and do has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them. It is a reflection of their person. And I still struggle with that, to be quite honest with you. The second thing I check with myself is this. Once again, is what I'm about to say coming from a place of healedness or woundedness? I have one wish. And in my doing my own work with my own personal professional, I discovered this when it came out of my mouth. What I entirely wish from my family members, from my mother and from my father and my siblings, is for them to pass from this life much more healed and wounded. And in knowing that, whenever I interact with them, I see them with different eyes. I don't see them as somebody telling me a negative thing or throwing salt. I see them as this wounded being. And one day, I still have hope that they will be much more healed. It's the perspective that has helped me deal with them. And everything else just kind of slides. Choosing my battles. I don't know if that helps or not.
It does. It does.
Yes.
Can
Choose
I
your
talk to
battles.
you afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just gonna ask this question. It's more for women.
Sure.
Maybe men can relate. But what do you do? I'm finding, and I did a little research. I'm finding that as a woman, as I've gotten older, like PMS is a thing.
Yeah.
Like before, people would talk about it, and I'm like, that doesn't affect me. I don't know what that is. Now I'm realizing when I feel weird, and like I'm starting to like rationalize things, and it doesn't make sense, and I'm like, okay, I know what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get past that when there's another layer of like stuff going on, and you're like, when people are saying things to you, and like you have these internal things that you may or may not be able to control, is that something that like you know how to help people like be aware of?
Oh, absolutely.
That,
So
like,
I think anybody can relate to that in the room. There's many, who hasn't gotten a good night's sleep some days? I know, like, I'm up hours, right? So it's asking really, when the body speaks louder than the mind, who is the master, right? The master's, well, there's this Native American saying that says, the wolf that wins is the one you feed, right? Or something like that, right? So, something like that. Like, I know the saying, I just can't think of it right now, but it's who is the master here? The mind or the body? And to that, I'll say I've never won against my body. My body speaks much louder than anything I know. So I listen to it. I literally take a moment and I reflect and I say, okay, body, what do you want me to do today? Yeah, I honor it. Yeah, your body's your temple. So it's also what you're eating, but also the thoughts you're feeding it. So I'd say probably like around that, if your body, if it's that time, start eating differently for your body to have less of that PMS or less of that stress. Yeah, I have a great dictionary of list of symptoms where the body speaks and it tells you what it means emotionally. So I could share that with you. Yes.
Another question, as someone who like goes to therapy, is that I think a lot of girl.
Therapy is dope. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think for a lot of people, it's like, how do you get in touch with a licensed marriage and family therapist? Like, how do you know when it's about time to go in to see someone, or like when you're at a point where you need additional resources and help to like live your best life? Or how did you get to the position that you are in terms of your practice?
So that's like 3 different
I
questions.
know.
But yeah, I feel like this Christmas, I'm so excited when people ask me about mental health. I'm literally like the person at Ralph's and I ear hustle and I'm like, oh, therapy, yes. And I tell them. So in my own search, what I did is I didn't let my insurance company dictate who I got. So what I did is I went to psychologytoday.com. So on psychologytoday.com, you can find other providers. So I can provide you guys with those links. Another one is melanin and mental health. I'm listed on there as well. And you can go to therapyforblackgirls.com.
I knew it. I'm like, she looks so
Yes.
familiar.
So therapy for black girls, right? And you don't have to be a girl. You can be a dude. Therapy for black girls, melanin and mental health. It's all clinicians of color, of different colors. And then you have psychologytoday.com. And you also have goodtherapy.org. Those are the main ones I suggest. Go take a look and you will find somebody. Listen to your spirit and it will guide you. Yeah. So for the sake of time, thank you so much. I know it was wrapped up all into one, but thank you.